Hey everybody, it's me, Scott from Heroic Studios Gaming, coming at you again with another RPG review. I actually recorded a 20-minute video of this particular thing, and I felt that I was being way too negative in it, so I went ahead and I'm making a new one, because I want to be fair. I want to be fair to the game, so I just crushed that one, and I'm gonna go ahead and start over. Today I'm going to be talking about a game made by Hunters Entertainment, which is called Outbreak Undead. Zombie survival role-playing game. This is a second edition, which apparently was kickstarted back in 2018. I bought this at a store. I did not know that this was second edition, which makes me wonder what happened in first edition. But the original game came out in 2010. And the basic premise of this game is that your zombie survival plan will fail. And what will you do if that happens, right? That's the basic premise. This game has apparently won some Ennies, which is weird because I've read it, and I'm going to tell you why I think it's weird later. But anyway, it won some Ennies, and it's considered the world's first zombie zombie survival simulation game, which is I think the reason why I want to work is I think it's a very niche category. I don't think that they classify Maximum Apocalypse as a zombie survival simulation, right? I think that's the thing. But anyway, that's not the point. The essential point of this game is to make the zombie survival horror genre real, in realer than you would find it in games like Maximum Apocalypse or Survive This by Bloat Games. Or on any other version of Zombicide or whatever other zombie RPG games might exist out there. This was an attempt to make it more real and more terrifying, and that's what it is. So it's supposed to be very close to what a real zombie survival situation might look like. At least that's what they say. And then it's supposed to be, because it's more realistic, because it follows this idea of being more realistic, it actually, they put these rules in for making yourself, which is kind of novel. In most RPGs, you usually can't make yourself just off the bat. You usually have to make some version of yourself, what you might look like in that world. But in this case, it's let's just make you. Let's just make you and go for it. And that's one of the options for character creation. You don't have to make a fictional character. You just make yourself. And that's what it is. So, I will say that if you like games where you are basically pretty assured that you're going to die, and you might get killed off by something stupid like a zombie chihuahua, then yeah, this game is definitely for you, because it's not a very high action game, as it were. There's lots of different ways that you can try to do actiony stuff, and I usually have seen, because I've watched quite a few of the live actual plays of this, like the Strain series, the Rag and Bone stuff. I have watched quite a bit of the actual plays from this game that exists on Hunter Entertainment's website, and I actually subscribed to them on Twitch for a little while just so I could follow all of these Outbreak Undead stories. There are some ways to do action, but you're gonna die. That's just how it is. You're gonna die, and that's how the game is designed. So like on the back, it even sort of suggests that you're gonna be trying to survive overwhelming forces. I mean, I guess, and then it's there's how do you survive? Do you manage to keep the fort alive, or do you survive by yourself? You make these hard choices. Sure, yeah, okay. So that's all stuff that they say that you do, and it does have some of that in it. And then I'll go ahead and I'm going to do one more pro about it, because like I said last time, I felt I was being very negative. The art inside the book is pretty awesome. The way that they laid out the book, you can see, is they've got these sort of clippings and then what look like journal entries and stuff. There's let me see if I can find one of the post-it note pages. They often have little notes to the side that are GM notes that look like they're little post-it notes that somebody's taped in. Right here is a perfect one. So they've got, sorry, I didn't mean to make a bunch of noise, but you see, it's got this post-it note there that tells you, some stuff, right? And so it's very artistically well done. It is laid out very well. The art is cool. like it does feel like it's a survival guide, and it's full of like a bunch of people's stuff, right? So there, I've said all these positive things about it. So now let me tell you about the cons, because this is where I spent most of my previous video going. Firstly, since we talked about the layout, let's talk about one of the cons, revolving around layout. So that was all well and good, like the way that it looks artistically. Somebody with potentially ADHD or something, I don't know exactly. I'm not gonna like clarify. I'm not gonna say like which particular neurodivergent problems might relate to this. But there's a lot here, and like it could be pretty overwhelming for me, and I don't have any of those kind of neurodivergent problems, right? And it's so I imagine that somebody who might have an issue with their attention or something might have trouble reading these pages. So that's the first thing, and that's just that. And I just thought of that. That's not even one that was originally in my other video. That was just something I thought of while I was thinking about the layout. But the one of the things that I covered in the previous video that I made is some of the issues I have with the massive amounts of icons that are used in the book. So these massive amount of icons that are used in the book to describe various different things. So there's like an attempt to try to use icons in place of words instead of writing out things like use speed dice, use damage dice, use degrees of success. They decided to use icons for those things. And that is well and good, but what it means is that I need a cipher to read this book, because if I don't remember right offhand what blue dice are, I'm going to have to look that up. And so I'm either going to be flipping a bunch, or I'm going to have like a cipher to go with and just a printed page of what these icons mean, and I'm going to be looking at it all the time. But that might be fine. You know, that's okay. I'm not too worried about that. But one thing that bugs me is something like this. See these different colors that are going on here? We've got green circles, we've got red circles, we've got blue squares, we've got red squares. I have a coworker who's colorblind, and recently discovered that if I write in a red pen, he cannot see it. Like if it's a red pen, it doesn't look like anything to him. Maybe he can kind of make it out, but it's hard for him to read it because he doesn't see red. If I put two things next to each other, one is red, one is green, he cannot tell the difference between them. So if I tell him to take the red wire or the green wire, he's not able to see the difference between those things. And so I imagine that somebody reading this has to like look at the plus sign, minus sign constantly. And if they already have eye issues and they wear glasses or something, that might be something that's a problem for them. So this layout design is not great. It looks like very cool and artistic, but in the long run, it's actually probably problematic for someone who wants to read the rules. So that's one of the cons I'm going to throw out there. The other con is the number of icons that they use. There's so many of them, and they all correlate to different things. The like gray rectangles mean using percentile dice. The red squares mean using the red damage dice. The black squares mean the complication dice. The blue squares mean the speed dice. The white squares mean depletion dice. Okay, so in order to play this game, I know automatically just by looking at the icons, I need these dice just to play this game. I can't just use like normal dice. I like, you know, I just D100. I've got to have all of this right here to play this game, which is a bunch of things. Now I could get away with probably just having one set of all of the colors, or just one set of D6s of different colors that I have to sort of correlate to the icons here. So I've got to create my own cipher lexicon to be able to play this game if I'm not just using their predetermined dice. The other thing is they decided to change some of the names of the dice, which is kind of annoying because you have D100s, which they write as percentiles all over the place. Instead of D100, they write percentile. Not the word percentile, they just put a percentile symbol, or they put the gray, which is another annoying thing. So instead of just putting like the gray dice, whenever I'm supposed to roll the gray dice, sometimes it'll say something like blank percentage, which is a percentile die roll. So that's a thing. But that's not the point. The other thing is like they'll go ahead and say like, instead of saying like, oh, D6s explodes, because sometimes they don't explode even though we've got the icon on it. They're like sometimes D6s are D6s, and then other times they're D6s that explode. But we're gonna change that up so that you don't get confused between what is an exploding D6 and what is not. We're gonna put a D6, and for the regular D6s, and then we're gonna put a D5 exclamation point for the exploding D6s. A D5 exclamation point. All right, So I know that when it says D5 exclamation point, it means roll a D6, and if it's a 6, I explode it. Okay. You could just you have an icon. You could just put the icon. You use so many other icons. Why not just put your logo? I don't know. That's the thing. So that's that. So that's just to play the game. But there's also all of these extra accoutrements that come with it. This is like, I've got my degrees of success, my degrees of failure, my threats, my other things. And then I've got like trait cards, I've got weapon cards, I've got loot cards, I've got gear cards, and I've got injury cards. And realistically, the injury cards and the loot cards and the gear cards actually make the game easier to play. So they now once I finally deciphered the game, I was able to realize that these cards actually do sort of speed up some of the GM side to this game. So they are useful tools, but not necessary per se. But that's not necessarily something I knew going into it, because at the very beginning of the player's handbook, before it's really told me what I'm supposed to be doing or how to like create my character, it tells me about the cards and how to use the cards. And so like I'm like legit, this is page 18, and it's telling me about the character cards. And then if I flip it another page or so, it's the next page tells me about event cards. And then the next page tells me about formation cards, and then there's the equipment cards, and then there's like the injury cards, and all of this is before it's even told me how to play the game. So what does that suggest to you? To me, that suggests that I need those things to play the game, right? If I'm opening this book up and in my first 20 pages, 25 pages, I keep seeing things about these cards and how to use them, I imagine that I need them, right? Like, so that's exactly what happened, and I bought some of them thinking that I needed them to play this game. And then I like flipped through them. I was like, cool. And then I'm going to like go ahead and try to figure out how to play this game. Because they sold them at my local game shop where I bought this book. So I was like, well, sure, I'll buy I bought the dice because I'm like, okay, apparently I need these dice, so I'll buy those. And then I'm like, finding these cards. I'm like, okay, apparently I need these cards, so I'll go buy these cards. And I bought all this stuff only to find out that those things are all optional aside from the dice. Okay, so this $45 book has now become close to $100 based on the price of all of these cards. Actually, probably more, because now that I think about it, I think some of them were like 15. So 12 for this one, 12 for this one. That's good. 12 for this one. 12. This one was actually discounted for 5, but initially was 12. And then I don't know the price of this one because it's in a special box. I think I had to buy these off Drive-Thru RPG or something, so I don't know. Probably 12 again. Well, so we'll just say 12, 24. 36, 48, so 60. So this game became $105. I don't even know how much these cost me. And these were definitely 25. So $125. So somehow I slowly got roped into paying $125 to play an RPG that I thought was going to cost me $45. And I still haven't bought the GM's guide. This is just the player's guide plus all of that stuff. I still haven't bought the GM's guide, and I won't. I won't because some of the game, like as you saw by the icons, and I've sort of talked about the art, and you can see that I'm feeling very negative about it already based on the fact that I got roped into paying extra money to play this game. The game system is just overly complicated. Like so in order to establish the idea that it's a horror survival game, they decided to make it just incredibly difficult. Like not making it horror or survival, just make it difficult. So, like, there's a thing about when you make horror stuff, right? Horror is essentially like the expression of sort of terrifying, gross, gritty things, gore, existential like horror, very powerful things from the universe that they just don't even care that you exist, and so they're just gonna smash you like you're an ant that's in their way. These are the things that are like constitute horror. This sort of expresses the horror by being like, you're useless. Like you just suck. So that's what's horror. Like you're going to die because you can't run very fast because you're slow. I mean, I know I'm slow, but when I go to play a game, like I'm a chubby guy. I recognize this. I have feelings about that aren't necessarily positive. I do try to do things that are healthy just because I recognize that I'm such a big guy. I don't need to be told that when I go to play a game, right? That's sort of the problem here. And I'm not even talking about making the character me doing the path where I make myself. In the fictional character creation, I have 120 points to spend on my 4 stats, the spew stats, the strength, perception, and I forget what the other ones are. Shoot, I should have looked at this better. Spew, strength, perception, empathy, and willpower. That's what the other 2 were, and I couldn't remember. So I have 120 points to allocate through this. So if I split them up evenly, I'm basically going to split them up to 30 each. So I'm going to have 30 in each subject, right? That's right. So I'm going to have 30 in each one. So I'm going to have a 30 strength, 30 perception, 30 empathy, and 30 willpower. This is making my fictional character. So now I have 30 in the stat. Remember, this is a D100 system where I got to roll below the threshold number. So I'm already starting off pretty low. The skills don't add that much, so they add maybe plus 10, plus 20, or whatever to it. So I might get up to 50%. So I might have a 50-50 chance in succeeding on a roll, maybe. And in this game, that is considered Olympian. 50% is considered Olympian. Your stats are probably going to be more like roughly 30-ish. And then you have this bonus number, which is actually just your tens number. And so like your derived stats are basically just going to be like 2 of your bonuses. Like your strength bonus plus your perception bonus is like your well, let me just pull it up. Just to tell you. So your morale is your empathy bonus plus your willpower bonus. So like if I did my thing that I just did, it would be 6. That would be my morale. 6. And then my damage threshold is going to be my strength bonus plus my willpower bonus. So 6 again. So I can take 6 points of damage from something before I take actual injury health point damage. Okay, well, so that's not much. And then if I take an injury, like I take health point damage, it's like an actual injury. Like it results in a broken leg or, a damaged thing. Sure. Okay, so this is kind of realistic in a way. But like I'm playing a role playing game here. I'm playing a fantasy escape. So I guess I'm not gonna play this game if I want a fantasy escape. I'm gonna play this game if I want to be told yet again that I'm slow and I'm going to be picked off by like fast moving zombies. Cool. So that's how they did. That's how they made the horror aspect, was to just make it really hard to achieve things. Like there are other games out there on the market, like Maximum Apocalypse, where you're playing a percentile game, but you feel like you have a fighting chance, and you feel like you're going to do something cool and heroic and epic, which is what I think people want when they play a role-playing game. But, I mean, Christopher J. De La Rosa and Ivan Van Norman, they obviously disagree with me, and they made this game instead. So that's essentially what it all is. I took... So now that I've done my pros, cons, I'm going to tell you the story and why I'm going to give this game 0 thumbs. I'm going to give it 0 thumbs, and I'm going to explain why. In the last remaining 2 minutes I have before this video matches the other video. The reason why I give this 0 thumbs is because I bought this game a year ago. I bought this game maybe even a little bit longer than that. I bought this game when Strained came out, when the Strained stuff came out. I feel like that was beginning of 2020. And so I saw Strained. I was following Heroes Entertainment because I was interested in the Altered Carbon stuff, which you guys know that I got more involved in and became a playtester for. I really interested in the Altered Carbon stuff, and I don't dislike Hunters Entertainment. I am very proud of the Altered Carbon book, not just because I helped on it, but because I think it's actually quite a quality game. And the complex rules in this that don't make sense to me actually make sense for an Altered Carbon. Like having a damage threshold where there's like a threshold in which I can take some damage before it actually hits my health points completely makes sense in a world where I have a sleeve and then my consciousness is on a stack that's in that sleeve. And then if I take damage to the sleeve dies, but the stack is still alive. So therefore I am still alive. That makes sense to me. This damage threshold thing does not make sense to me. And then it's like when it surpasses my damage threshold, and then not just like each time. No, when I have no more damage threshold because I've taken some damage, anything that happens to me after that breaks my legs, crushes my bones, destroys my heart. Right? I'm dead. So the Altered Carbon version of that made sense to me. So the reason why I am not giving this 0 thumbs, I sort of got off on a tangent, is because I found out about this game in 2020 and I was like really interested. I watched the Strain stuff and I was like, okay, well it can't be that bad. It seemed complicated, but it also seemed like maybe I was just misunderstanding some stuff. And then I started watching some of the Rag and Bone stuff, and I was like, okay, well, all right, cool. So I went and bought this game, and I've had it all this time, and I've been reading it, and I keep pulling it off the shelf, trying to read more and decipher it, and it has taken me up until the time that I bought this game, until like a couple days ago, to fully decipher the game and figure out how to play it. And I'm still not confident that I know how to play it. And that's bad. That's real bad for a person who's coming in off the street and is trying to pick up your game and play it. If it takes that long and buying that much accoutrement, even though they didn't need to, and they still haven't figured out the game, then something's wrong here. If people can't figure out your game, I think in the first couple of seconds, of not even necessarily really working out all the details rules, but can open it up in the game shop, be able to flip through it a little bit and go, yeah, this looks like I'd be interested in reading more, then if they can't do that, then you failed. And in this case, like, it legit is one of those situations where you have to go through like 30 pages or so before you get to, this is how you make your character, but you still don't get to like how to play until much later on. And before you got to that, you've been told that there's these cards and dice and stuff that are available for you to purchase. And so you're trying to learn the game, and you are sort of derailed a lot in the beginning. And then when you finally get to like trying to read and understand the game, it's like, so here's basically how it works, but then we're going to like tell you that it actually doesn't really work out that way. You got to do speed dice before you do things. So when you have combat, you have to roll these speed dice, and the more complex your action is, the more speed dice you roll, which means you'll go later in the initiative order as everyone else because you're doing a bunch of stuff. But by the time that you get to do like your parkour through the window and like save the girl who's about to be eaten by the zombie has already taken its actions and it's already doing something else, so it probably wasn't necessary for you to do all of those actions that you were already doing because we made this very complicated. So that's it. That's why I give it 0 thumbs. And I don't want to trash on it too much. I don't want them to think, I don't want Christopher and Ivan to think that I don't like their game, because I think that they are fine people, and I think that they have smart minds, and I'm a big fan of Altered Carbon, and I have all of the Kids on Bike stuff, but I just don't like Outbreak Undead, and I think it's overly complicated. I mean, as an example, and I'm just going to do a comparison here before I end this video, I'm just going to do a comparison. I bought the Dune book, right, just like 2 months ago when it came out for everyone else, right? Dune RPG, and I even did a video on this reviewing it. I read this, I bought it, and I read it in I picked like 2 days after I bought it. I read it in about 2 or 3 days, and I had enough understanding on how it plays out to make a character and to show you guys in a video live how to do it. I'm still not entirely sure I know how to make a character in this game, and I've had it significantly longer than I've had the Dune stuff. So that's why I give it 0 thumbs. If you want to play it, that's fine. I'm not going to think that you're weird or anything. Go ahead and play it. But I just didn't find it to be as cool as some of the other games I reviewed, and I do think there are a lot easier ways to play a zombie survival game, especially ones that actually focus on horror rather than just making things difficult. So that's it. That's all I have to say. And that's how I'll end it. This is actually a little bit more of a positive video than the last one, and I don't feel so bad. So I will talk to you guys later, and I'll make other videos about other stuff. So we'll talk more stuff at the Patreon. And if you're not on my Patreon and you're watching this from home at YouTube, because now that I'm putting these up on YouTube, I'm making them available for people to watch. If you're watching this on YouTube a month or so after I put it up on Patreon, you can actually see these videos in advance if you go to my Patreon. I don't have enough patrons to put a giant list like everyone else does at the end. But I want to thank my patrons for actually helping me out with Patreon and like helping me to be able to make videos like this and to make games, which is really what the Patreon's for. And so I want to thank you for all of that. So I hope you guys all have a good night and a good day, and I hope that you enjoy your gaming.